One of the more common questions that often gets asked in educational research is looking at differences between various groups. Now, one of the more common statistics that is used to help answer some of these questions is the t-test. Now, the t-test, to run a t-test, you have to have two variables. Your independent variable has to be a categorical variable with two groups. So this would be example a gender, and the two groups would be male and female. Okay, or it could be an instructional treatment. So instructional treatment 1, instructional treatment 2. That'd be example of a categorical variable that has two groups. Now your dependent variable has to be a scale data, so a type of score on an exam or some sort of psychometric instrument score, something along those lines. So this helps you determine, is there a statistically significant difference in performance or score between those two groups, males and females, people who got treatment 1, treatment 2, or so forth. So here in SPSS, I have an example data file that I'm going to show you how to run an AT test. So I'm going to first identify the variables that I could be able to use to run this. So I have a treatment variable here, and it has scores 1 and 2. So treatment A, treatment B, so to speak. Now, I'm also going to look on the score on the achievement test. So this is kind of a classic question. Did someone who was involved with treatment A perform better on a test than treatment B? So in order to answer that question, I'm going to go up to my Analyze option, and here I'm going to look and find the Compare Means. Once I'm under the Compare Means, this is going to be an independent samples t-test. I'll select that option, and my variable selection box enters. So using those variables that I identified, I have a treatment group, which is going to be actually my grouping variable because I have two options there, and I'll move that over. Now I have to define my groups, so I'm going to go in and select Define Groups, and I have Responses 1 and Response 2. And I'll select Continue. And now for my test variables, I need to look at the score on the achievement test, which is what I'm interested in. So once I have those, I'm going to go to my Options window. And this is my confidence interval percentage, which is the level of statistical significance that I'm going to flag these relationships at. So I'll select Continue because 95 is 0.05, which is a common practice in educational research. And then I'm going to select OK. Now notice the results of my t-test have been presented there. I've given some general group statistics. So the treatment group is a traditional group and an independent study group. And I have compared means. I have 70% for the traditional and 87% with standard deviations presented and so forth. Now the t-test is presented in the second table. Notice I have a test of equality of variances, which is presented about the data, how evenly distributed or how different the data is to itself. What I'm going to be looking at here is using equal variances assumed. So I'm assuming that there is no difference in variances across that. And I have the t-test value, degrees of freedom, and then I have the statistically significant score here. So I do see that this is below the 0.05 cutoff mark, which tells me that there is a statistically significant difference between these two groups. And using my descriptive statistics up here, I can tell that the independent study performed better than the traditional group. Notice that there is also some more detailed information in your t-test, but it also presents that the results that you can use to report out. And again, you'll want to use your statistics book in order for guidelines of how to write up the results of this within your research report. This tutorial shows you how to run and how to calculate the data using SPSS. So in this tutorial, we've walked through the process of looking at your data, determining the variables that you can use to run a t-test, and then interpreting the output that SPSS gives you from the t-test calculations.